let's go, because you know what I came in to do.
I don't get paid for overtime. I'm here to fight.
He obliterated him. Every adjective you want to use. So what's going to be different? Errol's also going to get smarter. He's going to get better. No. You know what the difference between 147 and 154 is? 2 glasses of water.
That's the former WBA Lightweight Champion Ray Mancini. Now, I don't think he meant 2 glasses of water makes up 7 pounds. He was making a point that there's not that big a jump between welter and super welter. It's the delusion of modern day boxing and 18 weight classes as opposed to 8. I'm not going to include Bridgerweight, not yet. It's got to establish itself a little more. But between 175 and cruiser is a 25-pound gap. Between super feather and minimum weight in the lower weights is a 25-pound gap. And that's 8 weight classes from super featherweight to minimum. I mean, traditionally, we had 8 weight classes. They have 8 weight classes in the lower weights alone. You know, people are talking about the 7 pounds is going to do Errol all his world of good. At the beginning, he'll feel the benefits of making 154. But at this stage here, to alleviate any real stress from weight making for Errol Spence, he'll have to move up to 160. And then he'll be rid of the stress of weight making only to run into guys who are a lot bigger, punch a lot harder, which will nullify a lot of what his game was based on at 147. And then what? You know what it is? Once that spark is gone, it's gone. Does Josh Taylor become the same guy who dazzled us to win the 4 belts, the World Boxing Super Series at 147? I doubt it very much. The problem with Errol Spence's style is he's had to come down to earth with a bang. He himself said he had better fundamentals than Terence Crawford, and he believed this. The media told him that, the pro PBC, the pro Errol Spence media, they told him that, and he believed it. And the facts are, it gets no easier for Errol Spence. He's a physical fighter. Bud Crawford actually stole some of Errol's blueprint to mentally destroy him. I saw it in the second round. I looked at it again. Bud used that same forearm that Errol is used to using like a jab. Errol uses that forearm. He rams it into the neck and the chest of his opponent. Their peripheral is obscured. They can't see over the top of that right hand. And Errol's teeing off on them. They can't reset. I took notes long time ago from the Chris Algieri fight with this. He put that forearm in Errol's chest, near up by his neck, and pushed him off. Stole his blueprint. Only he doesn't really do it as good as Errol, but he didn't need to. He pushed him off but didn't follow up with no shots. Errol used to follow up with combinations. But that's all he needed, is to take a bit of his blueprint. Yo, you're not stronger than me. All that strong boy boxing you do, I can do that too. I'm not saying Crawford has never done that. I can't remember him doing it. But basically, he's countering his counter. So he's out-muscled him. And then in the same sequence with the forearm, let's just say the same sequence in the second round, I pointed out that Errol kept going to the body and pulling back, straightening himself up upright. Now, shortly after Bud uses the forearm on him, Errol goes to the body with a good left hook and he pulls right back out because he's trying to outthink Bud. Can't just outmuscle him, got to try and outthink him. But that mid-range was never going to be his territory. He threw that punch and backed right back out, so far that he had to reset again. So they reset. Bud pops him with a jab up top. Errol's in a bit of panic mode now. He's anticipating a follow-up jab on his way. He bites the feint. He's not ready to counter, he bites the feint. Bud jabs him to the body. So Bud throws that left to the body. He can throw it because Errol's bit the feint and he's not ready to counter. Errol comes back and aims a right to Crawford's body in retaliation. But Bud isn't biting the feint. Not one bit of it. He's looking at where the punch is going. He changes the angle slightly to his right and he has his hands up, not right up at his head, but high enough nearby the chest, ready to counter. His hands are ready for when Errol straightens himself up to pop him. Bud's read Errol like a book. Bud's read Errol like a book. When Crawford lands the left that hits Errol around the back of the head, he doesn't even know where the punches are coming from. The right hand that lands, he doesn't know where it's coming from. Errol's off balance. The right hand that puts him down, the jab that puts him down, didn't need to be a powerful punch. Errol was all over the place. And after that knockdown, the fight was as good as dead. Trying to rationalize weight going up to 154 is going to make a difference. It's hard to sell that to me. And let's go beyond the rematch just a little for now. We're going to go back to it.
And when did you know, I got this, I'm going to knock him out, this is over?
Well, I didn't feel as if I was going to knock him out, but in the first round, I got more confident as we felt each other out. I knew he was much slower than me,
wow.
And I was stronger than him, and he didn't hit as hard as everybody said he did. So when I came back to the corner, the first thing that my coach said is, he's slow as shit.
Wow.
Start countering him. Start countering that slow-ass drive.
Wow, and that's exactly what you did.
So, technical ability, 154, red flag. The old strong boy tactics he used at 147, trying to use that at 154, red flag. What about confidence? What about taking on someone like Tim Tszyu? And Tim Tszyu been on the canvas, he's not a defensive genius. A lot of people are saying the likes of Tim Tszyu would tear Errol apart. Hold on there, like, not everybody is Bud Crawford, and like, people get overexcited. Like, Bud by choice doesn't use defense to win fights as much as Mayweather. And although that might not be to your taste, it's boring, it's this and that, Mayweather was extremely effective. I mean, we're yet to see if Bud could do to Canelo what Floyd did. Because as offensively blessed that Bud has been at 147, his defense will be tested against Canelo. What, them body shots? Canelo don't throw them wide, slapping body shots that Errol was throwing. These are thumping shots capable of breaking ribs, doing damage to spleens and liver. And Floyd was doing all types of contorted shit so he wouldn't get hit cleanly by them. But he himself said some of them body shots that Canelo hit him with bent him up. Them sparring sessions he had with Floyd, Errol Spence, they gassed him up. That was sparring. They were talking about putting Errol in as one of Canelo's opponents. What way? Because we're talking about weight's going to make everything better. And what way are we going to do this at? People have very short memories. They were talking about Spence against Canelo, like, you know, he could just do what Mayweather did. And a lot of people think they can just do what Mayweather did and, you know, it's easy. But yo, you guys caught the soundbite where I told October Red this could be a one-sided fight. And I was in no doubt Bud would win. But I didn't think we'd be talking, should Errol Spence fight again? He's done. Damaged goods. I didn't think that. I wasn't thinking that far ahead. But that's where we are now. That never happened in Floyd's career. There was no fight where, you know, boy, Floyd, you might need to pack it in. It didn't happen to Floyd. That's because he's a special fighter. And listen, Bud's still got a little way to go. He's 36 years of age, right? He hasn't shown no major deterioration. Spence is showing extreme vulnerability right now. Nobody's talking about no Canelo fight. Nobody's talking about him being some multi-weight champion. Nah, we're wondering if he can get licensed by the commissions right now. One fight against an elite fighter did that to him. I'm never going to mention Tommy Hearns, but Errol don't punch nowhere near as hard as Sugar Ray Leonard. Nowhere near. He doesn't have the power to take up to 154. It's unusual for fighters to go up in weights and then start gaining power. We know Bud hits harder than Errol at 147. We saw that Saturday. And it's what, 11 knockouts on the bounce for Bud? Every fight he's had at welter has ended inside the distance. It's about 10 fights. Doesn't hit as hard as Bud. Don't hit as hard as Felix Trinidad. I could keep naming welterweights he don't hit as hard as. So he doesn't have that going for him. He doesn't even have elite power at 147. We have to judge him on a harsh criteria. He himself said he had these great fundamentals. I've heard him disrespect other fighters' skill sets and everything. Kell Brook, in that first round or two against Bud Crawford, did way better than Errol Spence did for the whole fight against Terence Crawford. And Errol Spence beat Kell Brook, but he beat him on attrition. Great win, but he beat him on attrition. Errol doesn't have the nice hands like Kell does. He doesn't. Terence I was swelling up from Kell's jab in the first round. Kowalski's had a little spell where Crawford had to work it out and was on the canvas. Wasn't a big knockdown, but he was on the canvas. But styles make fights. A lot of people said them opponents that Crawford was beating on Top Rank and David Avanesian on BLK Prime were not as good as the PBC fighters that Errol Spence was fighting. Well, we don't really know that. Kavaliauskas came back and outpointed Mikhail Fox, who arguably won either that regular or interim belt, but got robbed. And that's a PBC fighter. Styles make fights. I always thought that Brook versus Porter was a close fight. But looking back at it, Kel had an easier time with Porter than Errol did. I always thought Mikey should have been fighting the likes of Lomachenko and even Gamboa. Them type of fights. He ended up at welterweight outpointing a past it Broner, but it was a great win. And taking on Errol Spence. What for exactly? Was it the cash grab? I guess it was the cash. Styles make fights, but I guess, people use that at their own convenience. I'm thinking the Errol Spence fans were probably thinking or trying to tell themselves that it was a style matchup. Why Mikey was able to take Errol the distance. No, he doesn't hit as hard as his fanboys were advertising. To the head, not to the body. He can become quite predictable. He's not the fastest welterweight. I'm going to mention Tommy because, Tommy's just that dude. Tommy Hearns blitzes Mikey Garcia out of the ring within 4 rounds. These are not receipts. It can't be receipts. This is my opinion. Terence Crawford gets him out of there in 6. Shane Mosley, prime Shane Mosley, gets him out of there. Oscar De La Hoya at 147 gets him out of there. Sugar Ray Robinson obliterates Mikey Garcia at 147. And I could go on and on. On and on. The likes of Felix Trinidad, Sugar Ray Leonard, they get Mikey out of there. They get him out of there. That's when I knew Errol was not a special fighter. I knew it then. A very good fighter though. A very good fighter. But not special. I watched Errol Spence inside against Lamont Peterson. And Lamont, for a little fleeting while, was mugging him off in the inside, landing him overhand right. Some of them a little illegal to the back of the head, but I mentally noted it down. The truth is, Terence Crawford was the elite step up for Errol. Despite him having 3 straps and how great he was, he beat some good people. But Terence Crawford was the benchmark for greatness for Errol Spence. And he's came up short. Couldn't beat the best in his weight class. And he hasn't even moved up 1 division yet. Not even 1. And he's going to attempt to do that now when a lot of people are saying he's damaged goods. He hasn't moved up 1 weight class yet. Terence has conquered 3 weight classes and been a 4-belt undisputed champion in 2 of them. What confidence do I have that he can move through the weight classes? It took you 5 years to fight Crawford.
After you get a beat down from people, you need a friend. Like, I guess Spence needs a friend today. What? No, brother, my brother, I love both of them. But that beat down that he took, I couldn't sleep last night. I love my brother from Nebraska, but I couldn't sleep thinking about the pain of my brother Errol Spence.
Even Minister Farrakhan had to get in on the action. This is going to be a talked about beating. This is the modern day St. Valentine's Day massacre. I'm telling you. Joe Habib, big up Joe Habib. I think it's important that you watch this video in the subscription box. Errol Spence said the rematch will take place on December. Randy Gordon from the New York State Athletic Commission. Commissioner Gordon was one of the most respected commissioners in the game. Him and Larry Hazard. Larry Hazard Jr. took over from his dad to be the commissioner in New Jersey. Now Randy is not commissioner, but he has huge influence. Huge influence. He was a commissioner in New York when New York was a major fight city. It still is now, to be honest. Right? And he asked Hazard Jr. if they offered this fight to you in Atlantic City, would you like this fight? It's a huge fight, the rematch. And he said, yeah, but I don't want Errol Spence fighting again. Errol Spence can't fight in New Jersey. That's shut down. And Commissioner Gordon said he spoke to other commissions and they will not license Errol Spence. So I'm trying to figure out now which commissions will or will not license Errol. Because ideally, if Las Vegas, New York, or let's say Cali are not involved, where are you going to put the fight? It's not all about Errol's health. Let's not get it twisted. People are going to say, why did you subject us to another fight like that after what we saw? I mean, people complained about Wilder and Fury 3. Now, we all know about the second fight and the one-sided nature of that. The difference is the third fight didn't happen till some 18 months later. You know, this is Showtime. It's not like they can go rogue and go to a state who may turn a blind eye to certain things to allow the fight to go ahead. Can't do that. You've got to go to one of the reputable commissions. You know, boxing in the 80s with a different kettle of fish, and in the 90s, and even today, a lot of the bad practices from certain commissions, I'm sure still going today. And promoters. Ali's last pro fight against Trevor Berbick, he went to the Bahamas because he knew no reputable commission in America was going to pass him at this stage of his career to fight. No way. I've done some digging on Wikipedia, and on TV, a cable network in Cincinnati, they aired the fight, but none of the major stations like HBO or ABC, etc., you guys know the channels better than I do, none of them put in a bid for the fight. There was no pay-per-view. I don't think there was no closed-circuit TV venues or anything. That's how much people wanted to distance themselves from the fight. But Don King and the Crook, who claimed to be Nation of Islam, they went ahead with it. And Don was still able to practice boxing in America. If that was today, none of the promoters would be even trying to come under that scrutiny. But them days were different. Greg Page, Thomas Hearns, Ernie Shavers, Eddie Mustafa Muhammad, they was all on the undercard. Them days were different. Julian Jackson couldn't pass the eye exam in the UK, so Barry Hearn put the WBA title fight between him and the Harold Graham in Spain, where the standards are a lot less lax. Unfortunately, Harold got knocked out, but the media barely batted an eyelid. You know, the British Boxing Board control weren't like, oh, Barry, if you put that card on, you could be jeopardizing that man's eyesight. We won't let you practice boxing in the UK. That didn't happen to Barry. He just carried on doing cards in the UK as normal. Imagine if Barry tried to pull that today. TalkSport and them other media outlets would have his guts for garters. British Boxing Board would have his guts for... Listen, this is social media era boxing. Can't get away with certain things no more. Pro Box and Eurosport, they broadcast the fight, and so did ITV. They weren't like, oh, we need to protect our brand, we better not air this fight. No.
Randy's Ringside on Facebook Live. Watching was Larry Hazard. And I said, I don't think that Errol Spence should ever fight again. Commissioner Hazard chimed in, I agree with you. I don't think he should ever fight again. And I spoke to Commissioner Hazard one-on-one later on. And I said, Commissioner, if, let's just say, the promoters come to you and they say, we want to put on a fight next May or June. We want to do it in Atlantic City at the convention center. It is going to be a huge fight. As we know, Atlantic City once was, I think, the capital of boxing back in the 80s. Then it dried up, and now it's coming back again. Well, Commissioner, wouldn't you love to have a fight of that magnitude? He said, I certainly would. I don't want to see Errol Spence, though. He said, I have to say that I will not license Errol Spence. And a number of other commissioners called me as well.
Wow.
I want to know what these other commissions he spoke to, and he's definitely spoke to them. And they won't license Errol Spence, so that's going to be interesting. Las Vegas is going to be under pressure. They're going to be under pressure not to license that fight. And I think Randy was jumping the gun. I think Larry Hazard was jumping the gun in saying they don't want to see Errol Spence fight again. Well, we got to let the man exercise his liberty and his freedoms. If he can pass all the tests, neurological, medical, whatever is needed to do, that's one step. I think the other step is to take it off the table for December. After that performance there, it's got to be off the table for December. New year, 2024, then we can start talking about arranging a date for a rematch, potentially. But right now, this year, not a good look. Not a good look. Not for the Vegas Commission, Showtime, because if it goes wrong, there's going to be old media, new media, Randy Gordon, Larry Hazard, and a lot of them old school heads said, yo, we told you not to do that. And now look what you've done. The commissions will err on the side of caution in 2023. This ain't the old days. Randy even said in the interview with Joe Abib, he said, if this was the 80s, I might have even said, yeah, go ahead and put the rematch on. But not today. A lot of stuff has happened in boxing since the 80s and now. The doping protocol, MRIs, suspensions after knockouts. It's not so easy to get licensed in any of the credible commissions or boxing boards around the world. It's not that easy. In certain countries, it's more lax. Yes, it is. But in the main territories, where they're on big networks like BT, Sky, PBC, Top Rank, they have to think about it a little more these days. Like New York used to have a lot of boxing. Not just at the MSG. I'm talking before, they used to talk about the Barclays Center. But a lot of small hall shows and stuff. But the insurance that the venues require in case a boxer suffers brain injuries on the premises has changed the whole infrastructure. It's changed it totally. And that's not just boxing, that's UFC and kickboxing. Can't just throw cards on. Can't do that no more. The legislation, the bureaucracy and red tape can't do that now. Let's see how they get Errol Spence in the ring. 665,000 pay-per-view buys. It's huge. Not as much as Ryan and Tank, but it's huge. And it will appreciate more in Terence Crawford's favor because this fight wasn't as hot pre-fight as it was post-fight. This fight is still trending because Terence basically put in one of the best boxing performances that any of us have seen. He is recognized as the pound-for-pound best fighter in the sport.